How you doing, man?
What's up, brother? Dan, that's actually how you sound like. That's what your voice is like.
It's pretty annoying.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's the reason probably for the interview to check out how Dan sounds. There are no interviews of you whatsoever. I was like, what is his voice sounding like? And now I finally found out.
Yeah, I honestly
Man,
don't do too many of these, so figured good time to start. So thanks for reaching out,
yeah,
man.
yeah, excited. I'm so
hmm
excited to talk to you. Look at your setup over there, right?
Oh yeah, got the digital kit.
Sick. Is it all like electronic? All
Yeah, it's like
these?
a it's like a Tama kit, and I got the like sound off mutes and stuff on the
Wow.
yeah, and it's all like the rolling TD stuff, cymbals into the TD20. It's, you get the flapping and stuff, from the pads, but it's all just thumping basically. Try not to piss off the neighbors.
Are you living in the house or is it like apartment situation kind of?
I'm in my house. Yep. Yeah. St. Petersburg, Florida. Yeah. Moved
Oh,
here.
wow.
Yeah,
St.
I moved.
Pete.
hmm Me and our singer's down here, Anthony, he moved down here like 10 years ago. So I came down here in 2020, got a house. So yeah, this is where I'm set up now.
And you got there perfect time,
Yeah.
right before the prices all went up
hmm
and now it's almost impossible to live there because I
Yep.
lived there in 2020. I think yeah, it was 2021 to 2022. I think it was Tampa.
Oh,
Tampa. I
cool.
was living there. Yeah. Actually, we were a little bit of neighbors, I
Yeah.
guess. But man, excited. I'm so excited to talk to Dan from After the Burial. That's crazy. And another thing, you're gonna be dealing with a fanboy because I got all the
Oh,
records.
wow.
Yeah, I got all, yeah, I just brought them here to just like show off. Look at me, I got them. I just wanted to say that I'm not only the fan of the band, but I'm a big fan of your drumming, and you are in my top three drummers who are lefty, like left-handed ones,
Yep.
which is
Not too many
you.
of us.
Yeah, there are not so many like you, Nils,
Yep.
Dominator, and Steph from Textures.
Oh,
You
yeah.
guys are like
I love
the
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, the Mount Rushmore of of left-handed drummers, I guess. But yeah, Saint Pete, how's the weather there? How's everything?
It's warm today. Woke up. Yeah, the sun's beating down. That's really the biggest reason I came here. I came from northern Minnesota. Like the band was based out of Twin Cities, but I was actually from Virginia, Minnesota. It was like about an hour south of Canada, and that was always home base for me. But I got so sick of shoveling snow and negative, 30-degree weather and stuff, and my car not starting. I was just like, I need a change. So moved down here like right before the pandemic hit. So I kind of got to see this place before it exploded. Yeah, living here, still love it. The weather is unbeatable. We go fishing a bunch, me and Anthony. So just awesome place to be.
Any regrets moving here? Anything that you hate here?
Honestly, no regrets. It came at a time in my life where I needed something new. So Anthony, I had a guy, one of my friends who used to actually sell merch for us back in the day. We got a place together, and so I relocated here and just haven't looked back, man. I mean, I visited home a couple times. Every time I go back, I just want to come back here. So every time we land, like on a plane from a tour or whatever, I we land at the Tampa airport. I'm so happy. So. And I want it to get hotter too. I'm always like, we had a really kind of cold winter over the last one, and I was like, man, that's too cold still. I think I want it to get hotter. So,
Wow.
yep,
That's cool. And Saint Pete also is just such a cool area.
yeah, it's a little
Beach.
more, yep, it's a little more beach vibe. Tampa's a little major city, kind of intimidating, but St. Pete's got the wholesome vibe to it still, I think. So, loving it.
I also
hmm
saw a lot of pictures of you fishing. So is it something that you picked up here in Tampa or
I've always been, kind of really into the outdoors and stuff like hunting and fishing. So I was really into lake fishing up north, but when I moved down here, Anthony, he's got an offshore boat. So that's when it really ramped up. Me and him were going out. We got a couple buddies we go out with as well, but me and him were going out like every chance we could get. There was probably months where we go out like three, four times a month and come back, bunch of fish. I love eating fish, love preparing it. So, well, I moved down here. We just kind of just leaned right into the Florida life.
Wow,
So,
you're just living your best life, seems like it.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun, man. Yep. Came down here at the perfect time. That's what I'm thankful for. Because if it would have been after the pandemic, I probably would have been nervous on moving and stuff. But I moved down here in January of 2020, literally a month before everything happened. So I just kind of look at it as it was meant to be type thing.
Yeah, it is.
hmm
It is meant to be. What was the biggest catch that you got?
The biggest like catch like I've
Yeah,
reeled in.
the biggest fish that you got so far
Oh
there.
man. I reeled in took me about 45 minutes one day. I reeled in about an 8 foot bull shark.
Jesus Christ.
And he was bigger than I was. I mean, it took all of my strength and it was a hot day. These guys were dumping cold water on me to keep me cool as I was trying to fight this thing up and
45
eventually
minutes.
yeah, eventually we got it to the boat and yeah, got him to the side, took a photo. He was 2 feet longer than I was, and I don't think I'll ever be able to catch anything bigger than that, honestly. It's just epic to be like in a tug of war with an animal that's bigger than you, and he's in his own habitat, and you're just sitting on a boat, and it's just you versus him, and it was quite the experience. Yep.
45 minutes.
So he'll fight, he'll run, and you got to bring him back, and you kind of hold him, and then he'll do that. Like, sharks are nothing but power; they're nothing but muscle. So honestly, you really don't want to hook up to one because you're in for kind of a headache. You got to get them off the line, and they're super hard to reel in. But honestly, like this shark was so big, I shouldn't have probably even. He should have been able to. The type of rod I was using, he should have been able to peel it off, but just this kind of finesse over 45 minutes and eventually he gave up. So it was pretty wild. I didn't want to catch him, but he wanted to come to the boat and say hi, so we got him up.
Did he just, help you anyhow? Was
Yeah.
he like holding you?
He had to put the fighting belt on me, which is, a belt you put on so you can put the rod and have some place to plant it. So he had to put that on me, and then he was dumping water on me. And then also when you're pulling back on the rod, he had to help me on a couple of those because my arms are just not even working anymore at that point. So
Wow,
it's an epic creature, man. Nothing but respect for him even after catching him.
that's
So
crazy. Did you let
mhm.
it go or it
Yeah,
was on your
absolutely.
tip?
Yep. Yep. We always let sharks go. Yep. Never have kept a shark. I know some people do, but I just respect them so much. We try to leave them alone. Yep.
Okay, that's very respectful towards the
hmm
fish. Okay, wow. That's a cool hobby that you have. You also said that you were doing hunting a lot, right? Probably in
Yeah.
Minnesota,
Yep.
it's a common thing.
Yeah, deer hunting, it's stuff where I came from is nothing but like deep woods. So
Do you know Nick Pierce?
I met him back when he played for the Faceless, long time ago. Like in this would have been '06. So that was the last time, yeah, I'd met him.
Because he's also into fishing, into hunting. He's got his plot of land in, I think, in Washington
hmm
State. Was
He
that?
seems like the kind of guy who'd be into it. That's
Yeah, you
awesome.
would guys get along for sure. Because when he was talking about like the nature, the connecting with the nature, he was talking for like 30 minutes. He was talking for 30 minutes, and I was just listening to him. Wow.
He's into it.
He is into
Passionate.
it, and
hmm
and you would guys probably would get along for sure. And shout out to Nick, amazing guy, amazing drummer,
Yes.
just
Yep.
as sick as you are. But yeah, anyways, so since there are not so many interviews of you at all, so which is usually a good thing for me because you're
hmm
like a blank canvas. You can tell your story as a drummer, as the musician. We can talk about the albums and stuff like that, and joining after the burial and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, how did it start for you? How did your drum journey start?
Um,
what were your first steps?
for me, I was the kid kind of, with the pots and pans and the rulers tapping on it. One of my earliest memories of hearing the radio is kind of being fascinated with what was making that sound the snare was making. Because I don't know, I've always been kind of like interested in the rhythmic side of music. And even as a little kid, I was like, speculating as to what a snare is, what's actually making that sound on like these tracks I'm hearing, and then just getting the pots and pans, banging on anything around the house. I was drawing, I was super into drawing when I was a kid. I was drawing drum sets and all this. And eventually I begged my mom enough. I joined the school band at when I was 12, which would have been the fifth grade. So eventually I begged my mom to get me my first kit. It was a Ludwig kit. I think I was 13 when she got me that. And then, I just didn't stop playing it, man. Met some kids this kid named Wade at my high school. He got me into like a bunch of bands that were like Pantera and stuff. As soon as like he introduced me like Pantera and stuff, I was like, that's what really set me on. Like, I need to learn how to play metal drums. Eventually, I formed like a local band. 'Cause that was kind of like the thing to do where I grew up was just to learn an instrument and start jamming with your friends. It was kind of a cool time to be a part of. That was like the hobby everybody had. So I was like, never a shortage of kids I could jam with or like bands you could form. Started this local band called Nostalgia in Minnesota, which was like basically like progressive death metal.
That's a good
And
start
yeah, and
with
so
prog
that's
death.
kind of, yep, that's kind of where I started. I heard bands like Origin and like Dying Fetus and stuff, and really kind of like was like, I gotta learn a blast beat, because that's just actually the first time I heard a blast beat was the Dimmy Borgir Puritanical album.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, that's probably one of my favorite albums of all time. And I heard that and immediately had to learn what that was. And so for like a few years, I was just playing like death metal and stuff with my local band. But that was in northern Minnesota. And then after the burial had formed, I think the end of 2004, and they started kind of playing shows around Minnesota. I think I remember the date actually. It was February 26th, 05. They came up and played in a city called Embarrass, Minnesota, which actually holds the record for the coldest city in Minnesota. And it's ironic because they came up and they played that show. It was at a church. One of our friends just rented out a church that he went to and got after the burial to headline there. And that's where I met all those guys. It was February 26th, 2005. And we just kind of became friends. Justin actually came up to me that show and was like, dude, I love your drumming. Nothing but compliments at that show. And we ended up hanging out that night at one of our friends' houses where I'm from in Virginia and just had a really good time and just kind of started our relationship there. A few years go by and they are looking for a drummer. Well, this is kind of the thing about After the Burial. They had their record Forging a Future Self come out. I think it was in 2006. I wasn't in the band back then, but that was the record. For some reason, that was so fresh to me when I heard it. That was the record I needed to learn front to back. Like everyone's got, like every drummer probably has a record. They just needed to learn like the whole thing, like a Pantera or like, Meshuggah. But for me, it was that After the Burial record, Forging a Future Self. I just sat in a basement and learned that whole thing. And then ironically, they lost their singer in '05 or '06. Actually, that would have been '07. I'm just gotta get the timeline right. Um,
It's okay.
yeah. And then as they were auditioning new singers, they were we had a house we were renting in the Twin Cities that actually became the house they were practicing at in our basement, but I wasn't in the band yet. And so they had just done this hate breed tour. That was their first big thing they had done. And Nick, the singer at the time, decided it was he didn't want to, he wanted to chase a different avenue in life. So he kind of told the guys that I think, this is the time to make a career decision. So actually, they went through auditioning new singers that summer, and they had a drummer, but he actually left town without informing anybody, and they had a bunch of people coming in from out of town to audition. And they were like, "Oh man, what are we gonna do? We don't have a drummer to audition. These guys are flying in from all over the place." And I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, "Hey guys, I know how to play all your songs. If you want to still audition these singers, I'll play the songs for you guys. You know, we can use my kit and we'll play them in the basement." And they auditioned, I think, three or four guys that day. And after we were done, they were like, "That sounded so good on the drums, man. Like, we want you to join the band, basically." Trent brought that up to me. He's like, "Dude, you should just play drums in our band." You know, it kind of took me off guard at the time because you know, I was kind of like, I was going to school. I didn't know where I was kind of headed, but I kind of took that to heart and sat the weekend and then texted him Monday and was like, "Hey man, I think I might want to do that." And he's like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then Justin called me like 5 minutes later. He's like, "Let's do this." It's ironic. They were auditioning singers and they ended up with a new drummer. That's kind of what happened. Mhm.
That's really interesting. And why, I got the follow-up question to that. Why Forging Future Self made you like learn? What was so special about the album that was like, okay, it's so sick. I have to do it. Why out of millions records, this
Mhm.
one was just the front to back kind of thing? Why?
It's just that sound on that record. I had never heard anything like it. Obviously, Meshuggah was a thing at the time, and you know, I was kind of just like the first Meshuggah album I heard, I believe, was Nothing. I love that album, but it didn't really put like this progressive, like kind of metal on the map for me, like the Forging record did. And I think it's because first off, you hear Pi, you know, it opens with Pi. You've got this, you know, minute and a half long breakdown of the digits of Pi, and you've got like a 3/4 China ostinato going over the whole thing. Never heard anything like that before. Instantly thought that was the coolest thing I heard. A Steady Decline, the next track on that song, is the perfect song to me. Like, I don't know, like I heard that and was just so I was so giddy when I heard that record. I just can't even like describe to you. Like I could not stop listening to it. It's the melodicness of it, the technicality, just the way the songs are put together. It just really kind of spoke to me at that time. And, you know, it was a challenge because it's a math problem. You know, you got these polyrhythmic, you know, syncopated parts stretched over like 4/4 sections. And it's graspable to learn if you come up with like a formula to it. And I just saw it as something like, I think I can figure this out and I want to. And just every song, there isn't a song I do not enjoy playing on that record. So it's kind of like it was meant to be type thing. Like that record came out, it was the one I decided to learn. If I didn't learn that one, you see it kind of all the pieces wouldn't have fallen in place the way they did. I wouldn't have been able to audition with these guys, their new vocalists, because I wouldn't have known the songs and all of that. So it's just kind of one of these weird like things that happen in life where you get this, you learn it all, and it's actually setting you up for your future, and you don't even
Mm-hmm.
realize it. Yeah. So
Wow, yeah.
yeah,
That's
that.
sick.
Hmm.
Yeah, I understand what you're talking about when it comes to After the Burial. They take the Meshuggah elements and add some like metal core, or they can add the blast beats, or they can add the D beats and stuff. But when you learn these songs, did you have to, what was the approach like learning the whole freaking album? Was it you listen to it million times and
Hmm.
then just memorize it section by section, or you just write it out and actually can you read the music?
So I went to like I did high school band, and I actually went to a music college called McNally Smith. It was for percussion performance. It was only for like a couple semesters, but the biggest benefit I got from that was the reading and writing of music. Like I could standard notate anything on the drums by listening and whatnot. It takes a long time to obviously because you've got four different limbs of instruments you're putting on a staff, you know, to standard notate. So when I was learning the stuff, initially I was standard notating, basically just the kick and the snare to give me, because it's all in 4/4, so it's you can kind of set up your template and approach it, listening and just dissecting it from there. But with After the Burial, I realized that you just basically have to learn what the hands are doing just by listening. The kick drum, I've developed this formula of just like learning what the rests are and writing down just in simple digits what the kick pattern is. So like it's just combinations of ones, twos, and fours, threes, in whatever order they're in. And they're usually a phrase that extends, not the full four bars, but it usually repeats within that. And then you end up, every repeat ends up a little more jumbled until you end up back at one eventually. So I just figured out this method of just like basically writing digits for the kick drum. So like something like pi, you know, I wrote out all the digits for just the kick drum, learned the hand ostinato on the snare and the china and the hi-hat. The trick is to be able to count the numbers as you're listening to the song or tap it with a finger on a table. Once you're at that point, like it's embedded in your memory that well, then I think you can start to approach it on the drum set. So it starts with you developing a method of like writing it out and just listening to it 1,000 times, and just getting it like
Mm.
embedded in your head before you even start practicing.
Their rhythm section, especially the kicks, are just diabolical to memorize. So kudos to
Yeah.
you for doing that. You just nailed it. But was the rare form recorded by the time when you auditioned with them or not?
So yeah, actually, I've always had a gripe with this. The Wikipedia timeline is actually inaccurate. So I
Okay,
joined the
let's
band.
debunk it.
Yep. So they had Forging a Future Self come out, and I believe '06, and that was Greg Erickson, our good friend who was on drums at that time. And then they were doing some touring about a year later where they had this guy named Arian on drums, who I think is now in like the attorney field. Awesome drummer, awesome guy. So that was their second drummer. And then they got this guy named Eric Robles. He's from the Chicago area. And he was touring with them for about a year and a half until '07. And then I actually auditioned their singers in '07 and joined the band in September of '07. And then we actually signed our record deal to Sumerian beginning of '08 and did our first tour. It was, I think, us, Born of Osiris and Veil of Maya and Sea of Treachery.
The
Did like a,
trinity of
yeah,
gent core kind of
we call it
metalcore. Okay.
the Midwest trifecta is what we call it. Us, Boo, and Veil. Yep. So that was our first tour as a signed band was January of '08. So when it came to writing Rareform, we had actually written Drifts and the song Rareform at the end of '07 in my basement, just kind of jamming those out like a traditional garage band would. So those two songs were already kind of written before we approached doing the Rareform album. And we actually released those as like demos on MySpace back in the day before Rareform was a thing. I don't even know if you can find those versions anymore, but so Rareform was actually all recorded. The drums and everything were done at my buddy Mark Softich, who I used to be in a band with. He was in my band Nostalgia. He was the guitar player. He moved to the Twin Cities. And so we did all the drums basically at his place at the beginning. I think it would have been the beginning of '08. And then that album got released July of that year. So yes, that is actually I'm in the band before Rareform. So that's my
Mm-hmm.
first venture with the band is Rareform.
But there are two versions of Rare
Yes.
Form. One is
Hmm.
2008, one is 2009. I thought, I don't know, for some reason, and it had a different vocalist. One had the previous one had Anthony. And the drums, I remember when it came out, I thought, such a sick record. But like drums, what is up?
Hmm.
Is it like MIDI programmed or something? Is
Yeah.
it what is going on? I just personally for me it was not. kind of listenable up until this version came out, this one,
Yes.
the 2009 reissue, right? What is going on? Like, what is this version? What is that version? How? Yeah.
Yep. So actually the drums for the original version and the vocalist, so the vocalist was Grant. He was actually the singer in my in Nostalgia. So that's kind of how we're all tied in with each other. Basically, when we had written Rareform and Drifts at the end of 2007, we got Grant to demo on those two songs because we still were kind of searching for a vocalist at that time. We didn't make a decision basically until the end of '07 on who we were going to go with as a vocalist. Well, we chose Grant. He did vocals, and all the drums are basically, I think, Superior drummer. They're all MIDI programmed on the record. So honestly, yeah, the production on the record is pretty, just lifeless. The drums are sterile, is the best way I can describe them. They have nothing going on dynamically. It's just, it's a computer. So back at the time, it was just get signed to the label, get this record done, get out, get touring. Not going to say rush decisions, but like I said, everything happened the way it needed to happen. Our tenure with Grant didn't end up working out. So we were so early in our careers at that point, and the record was not even a year old. We decided to kind of take a different approach. We found Anthony at the time, who the guys had known. They'd known him prior from his earlier band, Only in Dreams, because they had done local shows together with them. So we onboarded Anthony and decided to just re-record the record then, because I think we were within a year still of the original being released. So we just found it was the best thing to just re-record everything with him, get this all sounding good the way we want it, and re-release it in 2009. In hindsight, I wish that was the original, that gold one you're holding is the original one that went out, but it's just it happened the way it needed to happen, basically, for us to end up where we are. Yep.
I remember when the original one came out, it took me years to realize, oh, that there was another version
hmm
with different drums. And when I listened to the new version, I'm like, holy fuck, this is
hmm
so good. This is how it's supposed to sound. The drums, from what I understand, that and guitars were also re-recorded fully, or it was only drums and vocals, or everything was re-recorded.
I think I'm not too sure. I know drums and vocals obviously were re-recorded. A lot of guitar stuff. There is a lot of stuff that changed between the two versions. Like one of the biggest ones is the end of Cursing Akhenaten. The ending breakdown is a little different on the re-release version. So obviously, I would assume some guitars had to get re-recorded for that version as well. I'm not too specific on what was re-recorded. I just know like the drums and vocals were completely redone just to the way we wanted it. Yeah, it's night and
So
day between the
yeah,
two versions.
absolutely. Absolutely.
hmm
I thought that was the first version was the only one.
hmm
It was the only one. And when I heard the new one, I was like, holy crap, this is so freaking good. This is how it's supposed to sound. But
hmm
you were probably already when you were re-recording it, that was your like official first album with After the Burial. Is that correct?
So me and Justin and Mark, we kind of did the programming. We did the programming for the original Rareform version. So as far as performance, yes, the re-release would be considered like the first, but the original is me and Justin and Marky all sitting on a computer programming MIDI notes basically. So those are all like my parts and the way I like thought they should sound on the record on the original. It's just, they don't translate very well through these software drum kits. So,
It was Superior Drummer 2, right at the
yes.
time, the second
Yep.
version, but which was the best thing you could get, basically, the
hmm
Superior Drummer. So when you were recording it yourself, you probably already knew the parts. You already kind of, it was a breeze for you, isn't it? When you were
Yeah,
recording actually in the studio.
none of the drum parts actually changed at all. It's just basically updating them at that point. So basically, and I think this was done like it was done to be done quick as well. So not a lot of like changing things around or whatever, just trying to get it done, so we can get it out. And yeah, so not spending time revisiting parts basically, because I think that's kind of like that gets you into trouble a lot of the time too. You start overthinking it. So just approaching it the way it was written. Because when I program stuff, it's kind of how I approach writing drum parts is I really like to program it all first because with these tools you have now, you can really get a good idea of what sounds good using like a superior drummer or something and programming, and I'll program dynamics and humanize it as much as I can. And then when I'm done with that process, I'll learn that I have a roadmap for the entire song. So I'll learn that the way it is. So basically, when I program Rareform and stuff, that's how I envision the drum kit, the real drum kit actually sounding, and try to basically match that, what I've had programmed.
And the whole record also is just such a fun record. Especially, for example, take Berserker. This
Hmm.
song is a roller coaster. First skank beats, then blasts, then double bass part, then the gallop, then
That's one of
there's
my favorite breakdowns. Yeah.
yeah, and there's the swing part, which is down, 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 down. Now,
Hmm.
is it there? I'm
Yep.
sometimes keep mixing up drifts and Berserker because they're like such two. I don't know. They seem like one big cool song together.
Hmm.
But anyways, it's just like such a roller coaster, and their tempo changes and shit like that. It's just fun song.
There's like seven tempo changes in Berserker, I think. Yeah, they're all over the place. Yep. Between the two versions of Berserker, the original, if you listen, that's a part that changed as well because that swung part was added, I think, on the second version. And we were like, what if we swing this part? And it just made it so like more just head
Chuggy,
bangy.
yeah. Yeah, just a fun record front to back. I don't have a lot of records that I listen front to back usually, but Rare Form is just a staple. Amazing record. Kudos to you guys. Just made a masterpiece. And
Thank you so much, man.
you also toured with it, right? It was the first tour with Rare Form, and it was also the had the anniversary one with Acacia,
Hmm.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was very humbling because this was kind of like the first material besides forging we were playing as a band. And then it's as you get older and stuff, you kind of our albums have gone I wouldn't say less technical, but like a slightly different direction than Rare Form with like the technicality of Rare Form. But then doing the 10-year anniversary and having to kind of relearn everything, I was like, oh, okay. Like we used to play blast beats a lot. We used to have double bass parts. This is all stuff because like I said, I came from like death metal originally. Like I love playing blast beats and fast double kicks and stuff like that. So songs like Drifts and Berserker are like songs I really enjoy playing. It's just I've got those techniques like blasting and all that. Like I love utilizing that because it's like where I came from. So like still like enjoyed playing those very much, but definitely kind of a little challenging to get back up to speed to learn all those songs and play them on that tour. Yep. And that was a long tour too. That was like 30 plus shows. So yeah, playing Rare Form that many times.
You played the whole
Yep.
thing front to back.
We
Okay.
didn't do it like I don't think we did it in a specific order of the album. I think we tried to for the most part. My memory's not too good at back. I
It's
think that was
okay.
2018. Yep. But we played every song off the record on that tour.
Wow.
Yep. Hmm.
Is there any song that you consider like a stinker that's like, the intro starts and I'm like, don't feel like really playing it, or all of them are kind of.
You mean like on any album of ours or
N No, I'm talking about like Rare Form right
Rare
now,
Form?
like Rare Form. Yeah. Is there like any song that you're like dread playing? Maybe,
The
yeah.
the song I dread playing the most on that record is probably Ometh. because
Hmm.
of the tempo. The tempo is very, very high on that song, and it's pretty much there's a lot of like really complicated double bass parts, patterns under that song. So that's the one I gotta like. You're like, all right, here we go, and here are the four count. And I hope I make it to the end of it.
I thought it would be the last one, the what is it, the
Vicious
reforming
reforming. Yep.
this is such a crazy song. The kick patterns are never ending.
This is a song that I had to like bust out a pen and paper and write down all the digits because I'm like, okay. And it's fun with this song because like Justin and Trent, they wrote these syncopated patterns, and they'll program a basic demo and send it to me. But it's fun dissecting like a vicious reforming of features is a fun one because like you're dissecting it with a pen and paper and you're learning what the pattern is while you're doing it. So like the main verse pattern of that song is like 6-1-5-1-4-1-3-1-2-1 repeat. And I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing there. You're kind of playing with math here. That song, it's easy once you can write everything out, get it in your head, and be able to tap the parts like on a table. That song is just basically doing this the whole time. Snare on three with some syncopated parts, but that one I enjoy playing way more than like Ometh or yeah on that record. It's just I feel like I can execute that one. It's the higher tempo stuff that really becomes like when you're trying to do syncopated patterns that are complicated with double bass at higher tempos. That's when it becomes like nerve-wracking to me, and that's that song for sure. So
It's gonna be a couple of years and it's gonna be 20 years since the
yeah,
record came out.
hmm
Crazy, right? Crazy to
yep,
think.
hmm yeah. I think we're Dig Deep, our record is up for 10 years this year as well. So I'm like, wow, time's flying by.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It does. The last one came out almost what in 2019, right? The
Yep.
Evergreen, which
Evergreen.
is
Yep.
almost 7 years ago. My goodness.
Yep. We've been keeping everyone
In
waiting. Yeah. But,
insane. That's
but like
insane.
I said, we just wrapped up our new record. Got home Monday from that and very, very excited for everyone to hear this. It's kind of a fresh take on everything. So
I have a couple questions. I'm just drum wise. So will there be like blast beats and like fast parts, or it's gonna be into groovier kind of? What is it
I would
gonna be?
I would say for the most part, it's really groovy. It's really vibey and groovy. There's a couple parts specifically that are pretty complicated, but they're not like a big chunk of the song, let's say. With this record, it was more about kind of groove and vibe. And so I think the drums on this, they're a little more approachable. Still complicated as in the fact of doing the syncopated patterns and trying to add flair, in spots like that, but not so much like blast beats. We kind of like, have been slowly moving away from that. Like Berserker is kind of the apex of that and drifts. And there's parts on like Dig Deep and Evergreen, but it's kind of slowly been moving away from it. Unconsciously, not for the sake of just not doing it, but just kind of where the vibe of the songs are taking us.
Do you miss those parts?
I do.
Kind of.
I like,
You do.
yeah, I like playing blast beats. Yep, I like playing fast type music like that, but also, there's nothing as satisfying to me. The most satisfying thing is locking into a groove and having the drums serve the guitar riff and just add to it. And blast beats and stuff like that, they really are just like kind of blanketing a technique over sections to carry it through. Like, oh, this is the blast section, or and you obviously get very creative with it, but I feel like After the Burial has never really called for technicality in that front so much. It's really just like this is the part with the blast beat, and we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get to this, and So with me, like I get a lot more satisfaction out of this groove, man, locking in with these guys. And
I actually saw you guys in, what was it? Back to Gulag kind of thing. You remember
oh,
that tour?
back from the Gulag tour?
Yeah,
Yeah, that would have been 2021, I believe. 22, actually. Yep.
yeah, right when the pandemic happened. It was 2021, I think, right when I was living in Tampa, actually. And on that tour in Tampa show in Orpheum, you remember the old Orpheum? The old
Yes.
one?
Yep.
In what is it?
Where
What is the
the chickens running around all
yeah,
over the place.
the
Yeah.
chicken place. I forgot the name of it. What is it? Ybor.
Ybor
Ybor.
City. Yep.
Ybor, yeah. I remember I was there, I think I shot Brand of Sacrifice. It was Mike. I shot the drum cam for Mike and Jesse. I remember the show and how you guys sound. You sound very tight. It's just everything, all the syncopation, the kicks are matching with the guitars perfectly. There's no like sloppiness. And I remember I put the H5, the recorder,
Okay.
and
Yep.
yeah, I just put it there to record the drum cam, usually when I just don't have the board audio. And I remember when I was re-listening to the audio from that show, it was just like an album. Anthony was sounding sick. The guitars, you were just nailing that. It's, yeah, speaking about the groove, that's, I guess, what is important right now for people to
hmm
just respond, and being on the live show and shit. But yeah, kudos to you guys. It's just like you're unstoppable machine. Yeah.
Thank
Sick.
you, Alien.
Yeah.
I mean, I fuck up all the time, man, but that's
Nah, haven't heard it there. Haven't heard it at that show. It was super sick. I really enjoyed it.
that
Just
place, the Orpheum, it's really hard to kind of get behind like the drummer there. I guess if they had that little green room area up at the top, but that's one of those ones where I feel like you headline and you're like backs against the wall,
there's no
type
way.
thing.
Yeah,
Hmm
there's no way to shoot the drum cam. I was just struggling to set the cams for Jesse.
Yeah.
It just took me million years to do it. And when you do it between the changeovers, it's just
Yeah.
fucking nerve-wracking. And
hmm
yeah, and I'm like, just okay, that place, it's a good place, it's an amazing place, but it closed down. I
Yeah.
don't think it's already there. They have like the new Orpheum or something. I don't know. Didn't shoot at that place, but yeah. I'm sure there's gonna be another, chance for me to shoot your set. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
guys do you guys have the tours planned or not yet? Is there gonna be
Yep, we're working on a couple things at the end of this year. So we should be out in your neck of the woods probably I'd say November time frame, roughly. So yeah, we'll probably be in hopefully in the Bay Area. It'd be like, Santa Cruz, San Francisco,
that
Sacramento.
would be
It's usually one
sick?
of those three. Yep.
Yeah, or San Jose or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll be there to shoot the stuff. Yeah. So the second guy, do you remember anything about this
Oh
bad
yeah.
boy?
hmm
In Dreams. Feels like in these album there was more search for the groove kind of direction, right?
Yeah, I think that album's weird, man. I don't recall too much of that time frame. That would have been, I think, 2010. We had just done Rareform and toured for a couple years off that. There was one song on the record that we had known before. I think it was Your Troubles Will Cease and Fortune will Smile Upon You. That was a song I had kind of like I had already learned parts for going into that record. Most of that record was written pretty quickly as well. Like I think within like probably a half year timeline. Not like I would say like one of like my happiest records we've done because it was, pretty short and the songs are kind of out of the wheelhouse a little bit. I feel like it is definitely way more groove oriented on that record. But yeah, like I said, like we only really kind of go back to one or two songs on that record. If we end up playing live, like a headlining set, will basically just be like one or two off that record, even if we do it.
But Your Troubles,
That's a
such a
fun
sick
one.
Bam,
Yeah.
wow, wow.
Yeah. That one's just a fun song to play on the drums. It's yeah.
And the riff is just bam, wow.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And you can only
It's just, yeah,
I've
yeah,
always
go
said
ahead.
this, like if a guitar riff makes you laugh, like you're gonna want to hear it again and again. And that's like one of those riffs, I feel like, and you gotta constantly be sliding up the fretboard to execute. I think that these guys, Justin and Trent, always kind of kept like a vault of riffs, like they'll just record something, just keeping their ideas documented or whatever. But that was a riff I felt like they had in that riff vault for a little bit of time before that song was actually written. And it was always like you'd hear it and you go, we got to make a song out of this. Like, this is like such an ignorant riff. Yeah, eventually we were able to put it together. And that's probably my favorite song on the record, to be honest. Yep.
It stands out from the whole record. Kind of,
Hmm.
it feels like an odd man out. The album itself is kind of like dreamy and stuff. It's
Hmm.
interesting. And that one is like a caveman brief. Is it still in the set list? Do you guys still play it a lot or no?
We used to. Lately, the past few years, we've just been kind of focusing on playing newer material. So like the oldest we've been going as far as records has been kind of Wolves Within. Haven't really touched Rare Form in Dreams in quite some time. Yeah, just trying to focus on like the
On
newer
the new
stuff.
stuff. So there was from Rare Form to In Dreams, there was the huge shift. There was the it was less technical, more groovy. Do you remember any was there like any feedback from the fans or stuff like that? Did you guys hear anything? Was there or it's something that you're like, ah, whatever, we're gonna do our thing.
Honestly, we're in a bubble. Like when we write, it is those guys just kind of back in the In Dreams days, Trent and Justin, they wrote, all the riffs for those tracks. I just think that you just catch the guys in the time they're at and whatever's coming out of, at that time is what we're capturing. It's never we never go in with the intention of writing a record a certain way. It's just whatever falls out of you at the time is what we're capturing. In Dreams is probably like a 6 month time span where all those songs came out and were written and came out in that time frame. But I don't think it was a conscious decision to make something like less technical or less fast as Rare Form. It's just we're just channeling, what we're feeling at the time. So,
Mm. Maybe at the time you were tired of playing technical stuff when you're like,
maybe.
if you had to recommend one song for the starter to just like learn the After the Burial song, would your troubles be the easiest one?
That'd probably be a really good one to start with because it's setting you up for the 4/4 tempo, and it's syncopated patterns that are repeating over 4/4. Pretty easy to dissect, write out, notate, and approach. I would say, yeah, that would be the one I would approach too. Yep.
Yeah, the kick pattern is
Hmm.
yeah, I tried to learn it on drums and it's the kick pattern it just took me
Hmm.
quite some time.
Everything you're doing, like da 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 da. So that's 2 1 2 1. So da da 1 2 1. And so, like, if you can listen to that riff, like the verse riff, I think in the song is dun da 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 dun dun da da dun dun da dun dun da dun dun. So that's all numbers you can just write out. Dun dun da da. So 1 1 1 2 dun. You know, and so that's kind of how I approach these songs. Is I just kind of write out the groups of the phrases in numbers. You could standard notate to give you a better idea, but it's going to take you forever. That just takes a long time. So this is kind of a shortcut. That is the perfect song to write out on a piece of paper the groups of the kicks and just applying it to the 4/4 hands over the top. That's like that song is just After the Burial in a nutshell.
It is this guy. I
Hmm.
love Wolves Within. Helped me a lot through difficult times. It was 2013, I think. It was, it with me, it's associated with snow, cold, and
Hmm.
has a lot of technical parts, has beats in it.
Hmm.
Stuff that I like has this crazy pattern, in the very beginning.
No, anti-pattern. Yep. Hmm. That one's fun.
Do you remember anything from that era? Maybe from that album, that era, anything you want to say?
So Wolves Within, I feel like is definitely more of like an emotional album. Um, I think we kind of like there's more of coming off of In Dreams. I think Wolves Within has way more of a vibe going on. And at that time, we were kind of like stagnant on writing. We had toured, off Rareform and Dreams for quite some time, and we're kind of at a low point at that point, just having to find inspiration to write a new record and stuff like that. That one took us a little longer, if I remember correctly, and then we wrapped that up the end of 2011, I believe. That record, yeah, that took some work to get done for sure. Song "A Wolf Amongst Ravens" is one of my favorite songs, like to listen to. That's another song that, you really have to, that's one of those songs you can like troubles, you can write it out in order to approach it like that. But I just remember, yeah, being the winner, being not, not like at the top of our like feeling good about everything, and the album ended up being more emotional because of it. And yeah, I'm really happy with the way those songs sound and everything. Yeah, can't remember too much specifically of like the writing process during that record. Like I said, that would have been like 2011. I have like a 5-year cutoff when I start forgetting things. But yeah, I just remember that one taking a while. That one took a lot longer than Rare Former in Dreams.
I remember also that the pre-pro demos, I think they were also written on Superior Drummer. They were already sounding pretty good.
Hmm.
Pretty good. You could already kind of release it without even going to the
Hmm.
studio. It sounded sick. And the Wolves track itself is just such a wintry track. It's like pure winter. I don't know, for
Very
love it.
dark. Yep. That was written, we recorded it in the winter time, and I think it was written and recorded in the winter time, and that's the vibe, it's cold up there and depressing. I feel like it kind of added to the vibe of the record quite a bit.
Love the blast beats on the, what is it, Virga song?
Yes, yeah.
Have you actually played this one at all? I think you also had the previous vocalist also on this track, isn't it? I think.
Yep, so we had, yeah, Nick Wellner. He came and did guest vocals on that track. We've never played that song live. When I heard the riff for the first time, and I remember hearing it and going, this reminds me of Forging a Future Self. It's just something about the melodies that were in that song. And so I was personally pretty giddy about that song because it was kind of reminding me of the roots of the band a little bit. But yeah, I have never kind of sat down to put that in a live set yet. So
Such a sick song. I remember the pre-production videos, when they came out, when there was the baby.
yeah, yeah.
All right, man. Perfect, right? Sick take. Wait, I mean, what was wrong? I guess.
You are never in any of the videos.
I think, for me, I am a reclusive type of personality. I don't really shoot to be in these things. And I don't want to like, Justin and Trent had a really cool creative process. And, I didn't want to like, as much as I would get roped into being like participating in these things, I feel like I'd mess them up or I wouldn't have anything to add. So I tended to kind of stay in the shadows because the whole thing about After the Burial is like I do like everything behind the scenes. Like it's beyond just the drumming and stuff. Like I program light shows for us and all this, and I find ways to keep very busy like in this band. And I've always just kind of been like, you guys do that stuff and I'll do all this stuff. It's just never been, I'm just a recluse. Yeah, introvert, I guess you could say. I cover all the, I help where I can in all the behind the scenes stuff. The face of the band and the interviews and all that, I kind of just have always been like not aspiring towards, but that's just me. Hmm.
Were you dreading this one? And you're like, ah, damn it. Why did I say yes to that?
I'll dread anything that has to do with an interview, but man, I got to start, just doing this kind of stuff. I like talking about, I love nerding out about drums. That's one of my favorite things to do with people on the road. Talk about the past 20 years I've gone through, so it doesn't seem like it didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Figure now's better time than any. Just got a new record
Yeah,
done, and you reached out, and honestly, I, I figured, what the hell? Let's give it a
why
try.
not? Yeah,
Yeah,
why not? The stars aligned. The stars
yeah.
aligned. That's actually amazing because I thought like you would say no for some reason. I don't know why.
Hmm. You caught me at the right time. I was feeling I was like, all right, we'll try something new here. So
Okay, yeah. The light thing. So you're doing the light.
yeah, our last two, which would have been that Diard is Murder headliner, and then we did one headliner with the Muir. I got really into just programming our stage lights through MIDI time code. I started playing the drums as a teenager and getting into music in the band and stuff, but also I was a DJ. That was kind of like what I did
Wow.
for my money through high school. I would set up karaoke machines, DJ weddings, DJ the high school, get together dances and all this. I was DJing all over the place. So at the same time of like getting my love for drumming and playing in a band, I was also developing this love for like pro audio and lighting and stuff like that. I already had a pretty good understanding of everything before I was in the band. Used all these I take like an opportunity to like being in a recording studio or being on tour with, professional crew guys is kind of a learning opportunity. I started seeing program shows, syncopated program shows like Meshuggah was the first time I saw their guy literally tapping the patterns with his fingers. And then there's this band called Veil of Maya that was using this program. It was called DMX, this really cheap program for programming lights. And I got that thing and was like, I could not only could we have like our show have good lighting, but we can also program the syncopated parts to it. I've got strobes following kick drums. I've got lights movement and kind of matching up with the syncopation of the riffs and stuff. And so I'm sitting here programming our light shows kind of like how you program drums for a demo. And I did that for a couple of years for our last two headliners. I just programmed our on stage lights, like the strobes and the movers and stuff like that. But lately, that's all outgrown me because the production has just gotten so crazy nowadays. But that was a big part of what I do back in our early headliners was I would program our light shows as well. Yep. That's a lot of fun, like light theory and production. That's in another walk of life. That's what I could be. That's what I would be doing. I think is production.
But you didn't do it for any other bands.
Nope,
It was
just
just
after the
after the
burial.
burial.
I saw what fixtures can do and what like moving fixtures and strobes can do, and just immediately knew that I could just picture exactly what it should do for after the burial before I even programmed. So it was just the music made it easy to put together like pretty cool stuff for everything. But I don't do that anymore. Now we've got a guy that handles all of that. So, because before it used to be before a tour, I'd have to take a month to practice, get used to, playing the material, and also spending 2 weeks to program our light shows as well. So before getting ready for a tour for me was actually a lot of work. Learning the songs and staying fluid on them itself is a lot of work. And then at the same time, practicing and then jumping right into programming lights, I was kind of living in a basement, being even more reclusive, before a tour, and then I'd disappear for a month or two. But yeah.
But now you have one thing off your shoulders. You don't have to do the lights.
Yep. Now I can just focus on drums and it's been very lovely. Yeah.
Do you still have stress from touring, from hitting the stage? How are you about that?
I have stress basically the first like 1 to 4 shows is like kind of where the stress sits because you can sit at home and practice however many ways you want to, however regimented you want to be. You have to kind of recreate that live scenario because adrenaline comes into play. And when you've been off for a while and you're starting a tour, it's kind of hard to quell your adrenaline in that first week because you're excited to be out, you're excited to be playing in front of people again, and then stress obviously adds to adrenaline as well. But I feel like the first like 2 to 4 shows, you're trying to figure out how to keep your adrenaline down so you don't gas out. And then once you can get past that, my muscle memory, I know it so well now that I know if I can get past those first 4 shows that I can trust it entirely. That I can just be like, okay, it's embedded in your muscle memory. All you got to do is just show up and do it and just be autonomous at that point. As far as like feeling nervous on stage, I have completely detached anything beyond the front of the stage as far as people or the crowd or whatever. That my eyes are open on stage, but they aren't taking any of that in at all. So like you could have 100 people there, you could have 10,000 people there. I just treat it the same way. Here's my drums. I'm walking out. This is it. I'm just doing this. And then it'll hit me towards the end of the set. Like my eyes are open and I'm trying to like rock out and stuff like that. But towards the end of the set, I'll eventually look out and see people and go, whoa, and it's a very fleeting moment when it hits me, but it does usually once a show. But it's never like stress for how, oh, there's people and they think we're doing bad or they're not moving or whatever. I just don't care because I know the music is fun to listen to and fun to groove to. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and you have also kind of your drum set, the way it's like a half a circle. So you are in your
Yeah.
zone
I'm perfectly
there.
hidden.
That's why I was thinking, okay, shooting a drum cam for Dan would be a nightmare because
Hmm.
there's no like way to put it behind the set unless
Yep.
there's like a more space between the banner and the drum set. Because I was looking when I was shooting thigh art, I was looking, oh my goodness, it's all like how is he even getting out?
It's funny the little areas you gotta like squeeze into to get to your kit at certain clubs. Sometimes it's literally nothing, and you're just like, and yep, get between the wall and the kit, and yeah, you can't get behind those. For the drum cams, you can't really get a good angle.
And
But
you have like a huge kitchen of, of the
mhm.
symbols and stuff.
Yep, there's a lot in the
So
way.
you probably learned how to set it up like really, really fast, efficiently. Or is there like, do you have a drum tech actually, or you don't?
I do now, actually, for the first time. My buddy Jordan, he's been with us for about a year now. I used to use the drum rack. I actually switched to standard hardware because the drum rack is just a pain in some clubs if you're doing a support tour, like getting on and off stage. Also, storing it in the trailer, it's heavy enough to destroy itself, essentially. So I was constantly replacing things and all this. And I just went, look, I just want all Tama Road Pro stands. So I switched to that. So basically, he has to eyeball setup off my setup now. And he does an excellent job, but the rack, is all memory clipped. It's all you're dropping it on. It's the same thing every day. But the stands is a little more like fine adjustments and stuff with heights and all that. Switched to that recently and have a drum tech now, so it's just yeah, just gotten easier to deal
Yeah.
with.
Yeah,
Hmm.
another thing out of your way, right?
Yep. That's been the goal recently is just to yeah, just to focus on drumming. Yep. New
Mm-hmm.
record in drumming.
This guy, the Dig Deep,
Yep.
another milestone record that took me some time actually to get into,
Hmm.
after Wolves, because it was just, I don't know. This one was way groovier. The main single, which is Lost in the Static, which has like a bunch of people like covering it
Yep.
on
That's our
drums.
number one song for sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, okay. So anything from that time.
We were in the studio in 2015 and then we released it and God, I remember I think,
16,
yeah,
yeah.
and then we released it in 2016. So we were actually in the studio about a year before this record came out. That record, I don't want to get into too much about specifics because that was a very hard time for us. It was the first time we worked with a producer, Will Putney. It took us, I think, 3 years from Wolves Within to kick out Dig Deep, and we were just like kind of not getting anywhere with like what we wanted to do, like for ideas or what we wanted to execute for a record. So we decided to go with Will Putney at the time, and very happy we did, man. The best experience I've had recording drums was that record. Nice big drum room, like everything you expect to see at a normal studio, the control room, all of that. Kind of working with Will, bouncing ideas. So this is the first time we're kind of bouncing ideas on what I should do for drum parts. So kind of bringing somebody in with just like, hey, try this on that or try this for that, So it was kind of really a lot of fun to do that, like experiment with the drum parts while we were recording that record. And honestly, I don't know how we did that record. It's like we went into the studio with like 4 or 5 tracks of that record through the midst of just being kind of like in a rut in our careers at that point, came out with a record that I'm like one of the most proud records in our catalog we have. And I always tell Trent, I'm like, man, you really pulled a rabbit out of the hat, with this record because it's just amazing how it all came together. And that's the record I listen to and I'm most proud of, I guess, when I listen to After the Burial records because you're hearing me and obviously the songs are like I really love the songs, but you're hearing like the evolution of my drum playing, and I think it perfectly you hear all my influences in those drum parts, and it's kind of a further evolution of it. And I love how well Will did with just tracking and the way it sounds. So the first time I felt like we had like this well-rounded studio experience with like a engineer, a producer, and all of that. And so it was like our first taste as to doing it that way and learning that we should have been doing it this way the whole time and never not doing it that way again, type thing. And so that's kind of the same way we approached Evergreen and the same way we approached this last record we just recorded was basically from Evergreen on was all done the same kind of formula.
So the studio and all this engineering and all this kind of stuff.
Yep. Hmm.
Okay. What I like about Dig Deep is the snare sound.
Yes.
It's so good. It and the drums
Hmm.
overall, sometimes you can have it like muddy, sometimes you can have the cymbals, like not all accents are, you know, audible, but in that one you just can hear every single thing. I think this is Will Putney's probably, I don't know.
Hmm.
I consider it to be his best work when it comes to snare drum, how he recorded
Yes.
the snare so full.
Hmm.
So I'm a sucker for reverby kind of drums,
Hmm.
that you hit and it's like, bah.
Yeah. Hmm. Got the tail on it.
What I like about After the Burial, it has 8 songs, no bonus tracks, no
Yep.
nothing. Just get those 8 tracks and we'll disappear kind of for another like 7
Yep. Hmm.
years. Enjoy them, re-listen to them a lot of times. Do you guys have usually like any outtakes, any bonus tracks, or you just like have all these 8 songs and just
So
that's it?
sometimes there will be like a song or two that didn't make it on the record that will roll over into the next. And a good example is Behold the Crown off Evergreen. We knew that was going to be a song while we were in the studio for Dig Deep because we had Trent had that riff, the main one in Behold the Crown, but we were kind of cramming at that point. I think we had 5.5 weeks to basically write 4 songs and record 9. We already knew Behold the Crown was going to be a song because that riff was there. That was left over from Dig Deep. Well, it's the first song we picked up when we went to go do the Evergreen album. And that song ended up being the single on that record. And, in hindsight, I really wish we could have got that song on Dig Deep. But again, everything kind of just happened the way it needed to. because then that song became kind of like the main single of Evergreen. We just recorded 10 songs for our new record now. We have one again that I really wish made the record because I think it's a good song, but it needed a little more time. And I don't, you don't want to rush anything. But there always seems to be one lingering, one or two that don't make the cut, but then we put it on the next one. But yeah, it always just happens to be 8 or 9 songs, about 35, 40 minutes. It's about as much as you can get out of us in those times. Yep. And we don't like to put filler music or anything like that. So there's never, everything's usually a song, it's not like filler melodies or weird artifact tracks or anything like that. Just trying to do full songs, you know.
It's an
Mhm.
interesting tendency. I
Mhm.
think one song on Wolves Within didn't make the cut. I think it's The Endless March. It was
Yeah, the Endless March. Yep. So that song actually, I'm trying to remember when that was written. We weren't even sure if that one was going to make it on Wolves Within, but somehow it did. I can't remember specifically what happened there, but that was one of those. That was the one song we came into that record. That was one that was already written, and a lot of that was written after we had started the writing process. But that one had made it onto Wolves Within. I don't think it would have made it on. I can't remember if it would have made it on In Dreams before. Maybe maybe you have a better memory of that, but
the March. Yeah, the March made it to Dig Deep, The
Endless
Endless
March is
March.
on Dig Deep. Okay,
Yeah.
yep. Oh, okay. I'm confusing that with another song.
So yeah.
Endless March starts with the guitar like yep.
Da 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 da.
Mhm.
This one, yes, and it
Yes.
made it. It didn't make it on Wolves, but it
Didn't
made
make it
it
on
in the
Wolves.
Dig.
You are correct. Yep.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and then the next album, so the was Behold the Crown was supposed to make it on Dig
Dig
Deep, but it
Deep.
didn't make
Hmm.
it.
Yep.
That's
So
an
we keep
interesting tendency.
so we don't
Yeah,
give
like
up on them. We still they
uh-huh.
find their day somewhere. We just don't give up on them. Hmm.
And also, what is an interesting thing before we discuss the next one? You guys also like re-recorded the Forging, like 3 songs, and you also had like a 2 song EP. I have it somewhere. I swear I do. I have it like a little
Hmm.
disc thing, but okay. So these two didn't make it to the album as well, right? The Nothing Gold, right? And there's another one.
Yep. Nothing gold and death keeps us from living. So at that time, we it's like we were already kind of like 3, 4 years into not kicking out a record since Evergreen. We had a bunch of good tours lined up, and we wanted to get new material out just so we had like kind of something to play that was like newer material. So we decided to do like that 2 song EP, Nothing Gold and Death Keeps Us From Living, and just release it as an EP, just 2 quick songs. Those aren't going to be on any record or anything. Those are standalone songs just by themselves. And then the Forging songs, we just picked the 3 we thought would sound the best, and those were re-recorded with Terry Date out at his studio on the West Coast, I believe. Did an excellent job. I love the way those tracks sound. But yeah, just kind of sprinkling in releases wherever we can to kind of give us a little breathing room around these album cycles.
Can wait for the
Mhm.
next one, which is gonna be, is it gonna be this year or probably, or are you guys aiming for the next one?
It should be this year. We're shooting for, we just got done, so hopefully mix and mastering, all that fun stuff, artwork, all gets done relatively quick, and we have it out by maybe October, November of this year is what we're
Sick.
kind of shooting for. So,
Okay. Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait. Can't
yeah.
wait. The last one I wanted to talk about before we jump into the drum technique. This one was the Evergreen, was the kind of COVID album, right? Did you already move to
So
Tampa?
Evergreen was written and recorded in 2018, I believe.
Oh,
Yep. So this was well before COVID or my move. I think we released that record in April of 2019 and then started touring, and we're just off to the races, man. We were doing really well. And then we're in Europe February of 2020. We were actually headlining in Europe off our Evergreen album. Anthony wakes me up at 3 a.m. We were in Switzerland. He wakes me up at 3 a.m. one day and he goes, "Dan, we gotta go. We gotta leave Europe." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, and then I saw all the travel ban news and all of that. So that was right in the middle of our Evergreen headliner
Oh wow. So you
in
just were
Europe.
in the middle of the tour
Yep.
when the pandemic happened.
And we were just headed into the UK, and it was fully sold out and everything, and we had to kind of scrap the tour at that point because no one really knew what was happening. So we ended up we were already heading into the UK on that tour, called our booking agent and was like, we need to get out of Europe. And she was able to get us on flights like 9 hours later out of London. And we were home like within 24 hours. Very thankful we left when we did because I mean we flew through Chicago on the way home. No one there when we landed. And then later that night, you could have crowd surfed across that whole airport, seeing how many people were jammed in there, because of all the travel bans and stuff. So yeah, we were touring hard on Evergreen when the pandemic hit, and it kind of derailed everything for about a year and a half, and it kind of the timing of that sucked because I feel like we were kind of really executing well. Yep, we were hitting it. We were hitting the markets. We were headlining for the first time and having solid numbers, but then, it's just you couldn't stop what was happening there, and you had to take, our first tour back after that was Black Dahlia Murder at the end of 2021. So it was about a year and a half off from playing a show at that point. And I think, just that adjustment of having that lifestyle change, not playing a show in over a year, kind of put us in a little rut as far as like writing is concerned. Lost a little bit of steam, lost a little bit of inspiration. So that's why it's kind of taken, 6, 7 years for us to finally kick out a new one. But the way I'm looking at it is this record, I'm very confident in this. This thing's very heavy, very groovy. And the way I kind of look at it is like maybe everything just kind of needed to happen for us to write a record that sounds like this because this is heavy. I think the fans should be pretty happy when it comes out, and it's now reignited that us. I mean, our guitar player Trent's like, dude, I want to go back to the studio like right away. Yeah, kind of the COVID happened, it kind of reset the band. Now we're just starting to kind of like get really active, as active as we want to be again.
Is this new album, you also released the single prior to the album, like which is
Hmm.
like one standalone
Yep.
song. Is
Home,
it
Home
close
from the
to,
Hollow.
yeah, is it
So that
close to
that
the
song will
album
actually
kind of?
be on the record. Yep. And so that's actually going to be, yeah, on the record. And a lot of the songs, so you'll notice about that song, it carries more of like a vibe to it as far as like dark and kind of like, I don't know, ominous. And that's really kind of like it fits well with the rest of this record for sure. That single, very groove oriented, dark.
But your pandemic, right? What you got from the tour, right? You still in Minnesota. How was it for you? How was your pandemic? Did
So
you?
I had just moved to Florida. I had moved to Florida in January of 2020, and then we left for Europe like literally a few weeks later. We had to go do a European headliner. So I mean, I just literally got here. I drove down here in a U-Haul from Minnesota, threw all my gear in the house, all my stuff, and then was on tour in Europe, you know, a month later, barely set up at home. So when I came back, I believe that was like February 13th or something like that. When I got back, the future was completely uncertain. I didn't, when am I going to get income again? What is exactly going on? Like, how long is everyone not going to be touring? But it was really weird, man, because moving to Florida was kind of my second act, like it's the new lifestyle. Moving is to a different state is obviously a major lifestyle change. And so I had lived in northern Minnesota in a town of 9,000 people, bored out of my mind, shoveling snow for the first 33 years of my life. The reason I did that and chose to stay up there was because it was cheap and I could, it was a place I hated to be. So leaving on tour was something I really wanted to do. I need to get out of here. I need to go back on tour and I'd be sad when I come home. But moving to Florida at the time I did, it was so new and fresh for me and so like I met so many people down here. There's so much going on constantly. that it's like you're going through that summer in 2020 where everyone's sad, everyone's kind of like not working. I'm talking to my parents up in Minnesota. They've been in their house for weeks. And I'm sitting here having the time of my life in Florida, fishing and going to the beach and stuff like that. So it's really kind of like this cognitive dissonance of like, should I feel this good right now? Because like I'm very happy where I am and I'm enjoying it. But then when I talk to everyone else, they're kind of going through it. So 2020 was actually a good year for me. Just got down here, made the lifestyle change I needed to make to be happy. And then 2021 is when then it gets, okay, when are we touring now? Because that was a whole year off. And then we had originally had this tour with Black Dahlia Murder booked for the end of 2020. And they decided to revisit it at the end of 2021. So that's when we said, yes, let's do that. And that was our first like full tour back since the pandemic had happened. So
Yeah, the Up from the Sewer kind of.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was from what I remember, it was the last tour of Trevor.
Love Trevor, man. That was a good human being. So that very, very tough thing to hear when that happened. That a lot of fun touring with them. They were one of the first metal bands I'd actually seen at Ozfest in like '05. I had never, at that point I was into like Pantera and Iron Maiden and old school stuff. Black Dahlia Murder was the first time I saw Zach Gibson playing the Miasma album, going, "Holy crap, can this guy move?" And seeing that live at like 3 o'clock in the day in the beating sun, and Trevor's out there in like orange, like moss shorts and like a tight green tank top, and his voice. That's the first time I'd seen them. I never would have assumed that that was him on those records, and to see it just made me more into it, and yeah, loved that band. Miasma was a very important album for me, and Nocturnal. So yeah, enjoyed touring with him, and we'd be out after shows just talking in groups, and he's the kind of guy that would just walk right into your group and start talking to everybody, and just awesome conversations. Yep. So miss him. Hmm.
Man, I'm happy for you that you're like happy in Florida. You guys recorded the album.
Hmm.
Everything is doing great. You got your like drum set where you could play. Yeah, perfect. Good for
Yeah,
you.
I got everything I need right here. Yep.
How often do you practice actually with that thing? Is it like an everyday thing? Do you
I
get tired
usually
of the drum set?
I usually go like right now I'm taking a break because kind of like overexerted myself a little bit on this record and was getting some wrist pain. So right now I'm just being very cautious. I don't want anything to ever turn into like a chronic issue. So I said, okay, I'm going to track these songs. I'm going to take about 3 weeks, 3 weeks off playing just to let everything heal that's gotten like tension put on it or whatever. Whenever I do this, they're good breaks because whenever I jump back in after a week or two, I am very inspired. So it's usually like a couple months of me playing every day and then like a week or two reset every now and then just to come in fresh. So there was a point in time where I literally felt like I was doing something wrong if I didn't sit on that thing every day. Lately I've learned that, you can just kind of get burnt out playing the same thing over and over again. So when you take a break every now and then, you can come in with a fresh mind and it just leads to inspiration a little bit. So right now, I just got it set up because it was all torn apart because I had to take gear from it to go to the studio, but it actually just got it set up 2 days ago. I was thinking about playing it this weekend.
But that
Hmm.
was a good transition to the, drum technique and, nerding out kind of conversation. Are you
Hell
ready
yeah.
for that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna watch a couple of your videos, and I will just ask follow-up questions along the way. I have chosen two, which
Okay.
is vicious and I think the anti-pattern. So these two. So I'll ask you like questions along the way. But I also wanted to ask you, actually, since you started, about being a lefty. How does it feel for you to be like a lefty drummer? Is it a gift and a curse? Was it you obviously can't share the drum set with anybody because you're a
Hmm.
lefty?
It's a gift and a curse for sure. That's the best way to put it. When I started playing drums, everyone tells you you have to learn the drum kit right-handed. Okay. So like I was in high school band, we had a jazz teacher, Mr. Baker. I started taking the jazz lessons on the drums, and it's like you have to learn this thing right-handed. You aren't going to be comfortable, or you aren't going to be able to, you're never going to get asked to be in a band. You're not going to be able to play on other people's gear or whatnot. So I took that and ran with it. I set up, I knew how to set up a drum set, how a lefty would set it up because it's self-explanatory. You cross your arms with a hi-hat and descend the toms to your left. And then I would mirror it with the right-handed setup. I wasn't getting anywhere, man. Like, and I know a lot of left-handed drummers will approach with the open hand because they'll just approach a right-handed setup and not cross and go open-handed, which is cool, and a lot of guys are very good at that. Like there's some drummers that execute that amazingly. But for me, I wasn't getting anywhere on a right-handed, even playing like open-handed and stuff. I just wasn't making, I knew I was better than I was. So I went through about a year of trying to learn a drum kit right-handed. Then one day I said, I'm just going to try this. I got the whole left-handed setup the way I thought a lefty should set it up and just started making leaps and bounds. Like with just learning stuff, it just made me excited to play the drums because things was making sense now. I wasn't conflicting with my muscle memory. Then just I was like, this is the only way I'm going to get good at drums is playing it left-handed, just like this. This is what suits me. Then later in life, situations like flying to Europe and having to share a kit, like you're got three bands renting the same drum kit type of thing, or showing up to a festival that you're renting a drum kit at or a recording studio where I don't have my own stuff gets pretty complicated. But so like if you're renting a kit between two bands, I would always need to rent my own hardware because, you get 10, 15 minutes to swap a drum kit out. Well, there's no way I'm going to take a right-handed person's kit and turn it into a left-handed person's kit in like 10, 15 minutes. So there's just situations where it tends to like cost a little more because you got to rent a little more gear, or I gotta argue with people a little more because they don't understand, like they just don't basically don't understand what the difference is. And especially when you're playing this type of music, like I just can't jump into any setup and be expected to like execute it properly. That's where the frustration is. It's just like when we're doing recording studio and we're doing like foreign dates or fly-in gigs like that, that's when it gets a little annoying because I've just got to take like an extra step or two to make sure I have my own hardware to get my own setup. Plus, I have to bring a left-handed double bass pedal with me everywhere. I use the Thomas Speed Cobras, so that has to come with me, and that's nerve-wracking because you can't just get that anywhere. So, like, if let's say I go to Europe and a bag gets lost, which is exactly what happened on our first European tour. I had a left-handed pair of Axis double bass pedals. Well, the bag didn't make it until the second show. So for the first show, I had to play on the guy's two single bass pedals on a kick drum, on two kick drums. I had never played on a two kick drum setup at that point, and had to slop my way through the show. Don't even know what I played, but so then you run into that, like I need my own gear too. I need my left-handed double bass pedal and stuff, but I don't look at it as a burden in any way. It's just like I was wired to be left-handed. It's just I'm left-footed, left-handed. My right hand is honestly pretty dumb. It's just I wasn't ever going to get here without playing left-handed. So it's just this is what I have to do to do this essentially. Yep.
I mean, I understand you. I'm lefty too.
Yeah.
You see, this
Yeah.
drum kit is also like left-handed.
And you got, oh yeah, you're perfectly lefty. I didn't even notice that, man.
Yeah, being lefty, yeah, is just like interesting. Also
Yeah.
converted. I have like the demon drives,
Yep.
the original right-handed, and I had to like convert it into the left-handed ones. My friend helped me, but with Axis, from what I know, it's just
Yeah, I
impossible.
think demon drives are the only one that really out of the box you can turn them into whatever. You can't do them with the Speed Cobras or obviously the Axis pedals. So I had to buy the left-handed version, which always is a little more expensive too, I feel like. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's kind of That sucks,
Annoying.
but
Yeah, that
yeah.
annoying.
But yeah, you
But yeah,
basically got pretty similar setup now that I'm looking. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
yeah.
Is that the
You
TD12
inspire
or?
me. It's so the story about this drum kit. I bought it when I lived in China. I bought the drum set. It's like a Chinese
Oh, okay.
knockoff brand, like Luoka, wherever the fuck. And I brought it here. So I brought it here to States, which cost me like $400 to just, put it into
Like,
two suitcases.
yeah,
It was during the COVID, actually, probably January 2020. So I brought it here, and the module is a shitty one, so it's like bad, and the shells themselves they're crappy, pretty bad. So the only thing that's left from this drum set is the rack. All of it is just replaced. It's like a Frankenstein of a drum
hmm.
set that I wish I could, have more time to use. But anyways, let's talk about your hand technique and everything like this. How
There's my
do
old
you,
studio.
yeah, how do you like watching your old videos actually?
It's been a little while since I've watched these. This is funny because like I did all the mixing and stuff like this. So this was kind of an all-encompassing learning experience for me. Yeah, making this little intro thing that says Dan Carl and a Terminator logo, learning how to mix drums and all of it. It was all done by me. So all of this was a learning, yep, editing everything. This was all because what happened is we did dig deep and I was sitting there with Randy and Will at the studio and just kind of shadowing everything they did because I really wanted to learn how they tracked drums and learned it all when we did dig deep and came home and was just hungry to make these playthrough videos. The audio is where I'm like, the playthrough itself is one thing. If the audio still holds up to today, that's a win for me because that was me like learning it like a month or two. And,
I think
you
it
know,
sounds good. I think it
yeah.
sounds good. I don't know what are your standards, but
Hmm.
okay, yeah. And so I like the font, like the Terminator
Yeah.
font.
Yeah.
But
For
yeah,
some reason
let's.
that seemed awesome to me at the time, so we went
I
with
mean,
it.
it is awesome. Let's terminate this song. But why this one? Out of all the rare form songs, why this one?
I felt this one just is pattern central. Like it's just what I do for an after the burial song. Like, look, I gotta learn this, like I gotta learn all these sections individually, put them all together. This is kind of like the perfect song that shows like I don't know, like the culmination of learning all these patterns. I just wanted to do this one. I just felt like this one always sounded cool to me. I love the patterns and just wanted to show it to everybody. Yep.
No further
Hmm.
questions. Okay, okay, let's go.
Oh yeah, iMovie filters in here too. I had to use iMovie.
Your hand technique.
I pretty much have pretty much standard, German. It's kind of
Mhm.
like between German and French, thumbs up in the air for the most part, unless I'm hitting cymbals, and then switches to like a more of a German grip. But so I'll start with a lot of how I define like my technique and how I hold the stick. It's Marco Miniman. It's the finger control technique, using these three, putting it more towards the front of your index finger so you get more of a fulcrum for your back from your back fingers. I'll give him the credit for like how I felt I should have my technique. Obviously, went to the high school band and all of that and learned, basic habits through there, but then really refined my technique with those Marco Miniman videos, dude, where he's showing you how to like do the finger control with each individual finger and, moving throughout the stick. That forces you to kind of have more of a over the top German grip on the stick, I feel like, which is where my technique kind of ended up. And so it's pretty much standard. I don't do like open close. When I do blast meets, it's definitely the molar technique on my left hand, like the kind of the rocking. And you'll notice too, like when I hit crashes and stuff, if it's like a quarter note part that's like a snare on three, I'll always rock it with the molar technique and fill in those eighth note gaps. It's something about keeping like your hands moving, even in the spaces that aren't aren't like calling for anything dynamically. If you can keep the little locomotive motion going in your hand, you play tighter, I feel like. So that really comes into play on this song a lot, just keeping moving, keeping the subdivisions small so you can really lock in these kick parts to the riff. Yep. Hmm.
And also seems like you really like your crashes. You know,
Yes.
sometimes even if the studio version has the China live, you would prefer Crash over it.
Hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it like analyzing your drum videos? That's what I came up with.
A lot of it might be a crash in place of a China, but a lot of it also is like both at the same time. Like I don't, there's a lot of points where like if you're going for like an accented crash or China on count one, I never like doing just one symbol. I like let's say you're gonna play on count one, you're gonna play a China hit. Well, I'll always throw the crash in there too to kind of give it like a bigger sound. For me, it's just yeah, obviously I know how I recorded the song and I have the digital MIDI maps, but every now and then my muscle memory just kind of does what it wants to do. And it becomes like a habit. And if you'll notice something about me, like if you come see me play a song in 2022 and you come to see me play a song in 2026, it's exactly the same. There's nothing added, there's no new cymbal hits added. I'll play it the exact same way I played live. There's no ad-libbing parts or changing up fills or whatever. I try to do it exactly the same every time so it's consistent.
So note for note,
Note
note
for
for
note,
note.
the same
Hmm.
crash symbol here, the same splash symbol here, it's identical. So because that's how my muscle memory kind of works, it's like my muscle memory has to be kind of programmed for the part. It can't like go off on a whim and make something sound cool. It needs like a lot of structure, basically. Yeah, so it's the same thing every time, basically.
Album wise, people will hear what they hear on the album. There's no improv whatsoever, which is good, good, good.
Yeah.
I like
Hmm.
it. I like it. Okay.
Dang, that snare's still holding up.
What kind of snare? Is it the same snare that you have?
That is the Thomas Starphonic brass snare in this video. I actually don't have that snare anymore, but it's like a brass snare, and it's just got that real kind of pop to it, and that hybrid head up top really helps that as well. I love the snare reverb. Just like you said earlier, I love when the snare has that nice tail of reverb on it. So I feel like I added a lot of it to these videos.
And what about hitting hard?
The snare always should be the loudest thing. Whenever I hit a snare for a backbeat, I am always getting the rim shot in there. So I'm always making contact with the rim as well. And I tend to come down pretty hard on the snare because I just like being conscious of the fact that that thing is loud. In a live setting, I do feel like it's important to hit harder. We just learned this in the studio too, like because we were A-Bing a lot of takes. And it's very clear that the harder you hit a drum, the more full it sounds. The harder you hit a cymbal, the more full it sounds. These videos, it doesn't really look, I'm sitting in a comfortable home environment, but I feel like I do end up tending to bash pretty hard in live settings and it's all just for the sound. The harder you can hit a drum, the better it's going to sound, I feel like.
Hmm. Sounds very powerful here with the pop.
And I got those that's back when I had the Pearl Demon drives. Yeah.
Did you convert them too, or no?
So those are two. I originally had it as a double pedal. It was bought right-handed, converted it to left, but in this video, it's just two singles.
Two.
I turned them
Okay.
into the two singles. Yep. Hmm.
Okay, and I also noticed that you like here, for example, I think you're doing a lot of slides, like a sliding foot when you're doing these patterns, and there are like a lot of times where you could just use the two pedals, but
Hmm.
you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna use one. And
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because at certain tempos, and this would be like I would say like probably 160 or less BPM, you fall into this gray area where it's hard to do on either or. It's hard to do on one foot because of the speed, and it's hard to do on 2 feet because of how slow it is and how high you have to pick your feet up to kind of slow the pedal down for those syncopated parts. I have always thought that if I could play the part with one foot on my left foot, that's gonna be easier for me to. It's basically like it's easier to program one foot to do a part than program 2 feet to do a part because now you're dealing with four limbs versus like the three. So yeah, anytime you're sitting at a tempo like 160 BPM or lower, and I feel like I can execute the part with just the one foot, I always will. And really it's a lot of that swivel, that heel swivel to get the doubles down is kind of like the strong point of my left foot, I feel like, is that little the swivel into the double. And it's just made doing parts like that easier. There is parts at those type of tempos that I just simply can't do that I had to go like, all right, I got to do this with 2 feet. But if I can get away with it, and I feel like it's humanly possible to play the part with one foot, I will play the part with one foot. It's just better for me, I feel like.
swivel. It's not
Yeah, so
slide, it's a swivel.
it's whenever I'm doing a double, like da-da, I always start with the heel up high and then swivel it for that second stroke. A good video for this is anti-pattern because you can kind
We
of
will watch
see,
it, yeah, in a
yep,
sec. Yeah.
that one really shows that. Yep.
When it comes to higher tempos, for example, Berserker take this part when there's before the
Hmm.
gallop. So what is it? Is it like full leg? Is it also swivel?
It's not really I don't really utilize the swivel technique during actual like full double bass runs. I don't really use the swivel technique too much. I use the swivel technique a lot on just the single foot, my left foot playing those single part patterns. When I'm just doing like the berserker, like the straight runs of double bass, my heel is kind of just floating about a half inch above the pedal, and it's mostly just straight on, just all ankle and toes essentially. Yep.
The music itself doesn't require you to have like those long runs besides the
No.
Berserker.
Yeah, that's really the longest run, and so kind of like what After the Burial requires me to do is being able to play a run of double bass at 210 BPM for like 4 to 8 measures. Like
Hmm.
that's as hard as it ever gets as far as like runs of double bass. So that's kind of like I'm not like that's about as fast as I can go. I'm not really like a fast double bass player per se. That's kind of like where I max out, about 210. I can sit comfortably there. I can do shorter bursts at higher BPM, but After the Burial has never really called for me to have to learn like that kind of double bass. So really, all this technique and everything you're seeing is my body adjusting to what the parts in After the Burial called for, essentially. I didn't try to like learn how to do that swivel technique on my left foot. It's just what my foot naturally started doing, learning these parts and doing them again and again. It just became an embedded habit, in the technique. So kind of unconsciously happened.
What's your take on heel toe and these kind of stuff? Have you ever tried?
Yeah, so I had a Roland TD12 at one point, like the cheaper version, and the kick pads on those are like so responsive because they're so small. I had those demon drives and I put them into the longboard configuration. And I did the thing where if this is the back of the pedal, I'll just move it to the middle of my foot and mash the foot in. And I was figuring it out. And I was like going down that path for a minute and I was like, I had it and I could still do it, but the problem is these parts that are so slow and syncopated, like in After the Burial. Like I use an acoustic trigger. I always have. I've never used a mic on a kick drum. It's just always been a part of my sound. It is impossible to dial a trigger in for doubles and play the syncopated parts like I do without drastically changing my technique that I start with. And I didn't want to do that because I'm happy with where it's at on my feet. Doubles is like it's there. I could grasp it if I wanted to. I just it's not it after the burial didn't really ever call for it, you know. So we didn't really expand on, like really fast double bass tempos and all of that, you know. Our music doesn't really serve our music too much.
Well, yeah, if you don't need it, there's no need to like redo everything, all the settings. So yeah,
Hmm.
just let's actually go over this one, the Andy pattern. Do you
That's
see,
my
do you
favorite one.
hear? Okay, why is that so?
I just think, yeah,
The
it's a
intro?
it's a cool, yeah, the intro. It just looks cool. Yeah.
When it comes to the intro, did you come up with it? Okay, we should have like an intro in the beginning of the album.
I don't think it was my idea to specifically have just a drum soloed intro for this part. It was an idea that I think Justin had brought up, like, yo, what if we just did the drums here? And I was like, that's insane, but okay. And we just ran with it. Yep. And he had something kind of slightly programmed, just basically following the stabs on the parts. And I had to go, okay, you can actually, because of the numbers, you can actually alternate all of these. And because of the amount of symbols I have, you can hit a different symbol each time with every time you're repeating it. So it's just one of these patterns that when you applied it to a drum set, it made a ton of sense with just my setup and the way you could lay it out on the drum set. As far as like it being solo at the beginning, though, like that was an ambitious idea, and I can't say that it was mine. I don't believe it was, but we did it. So
I like it. It's like a very ambitious way to start the album. Let's hear it.
so a way to break it down is 1 1 2 1 1 3. You just give it numbers. Okay. So then when so the phrase is 1 1 2 1 2 3, and then we're just going to repeat that again and again and again over a 4/4 context. It sounds like if it had a click over it, it sounds like, as you progress through the riff, you're getting further and further away from what sounds like you can find count one at. But that's kind of the beauty of these patterns is when they do land on one after, 16 bars or so, it's so impactful. It hits so hard. And when the user hears it and knows that that's count one and everything comes in, it's just they go down this road of where am I, where am I, where am I, and then it hits on count one, and it's the same thing that it's been the whole time. It's kind of a cool like magic trick in a way, and
Yeah, it
like
lasts for many bars,
hmm
right? And then it just lasts and then it ends on one, and then again it lasts for million bars.
and this thing that sounded kind of like odd to you at the beginning all of a sudden makes sense to you because when you hear it in the 4/4 context, and it's just like it's a cool epiphany I think the user has when they hear it. When it comes in with after the drums and it comes in with the band all together, the little high drony notes are actually the only thing holding the 4/4 count. You can hear it in there. So if you pay attention to those, you can really like bang your head to that. If you don't know where count one is, that those little overtones kind of help keep the pulse going.
It's like lasting so long.
I
Like
know it's like a
almost
whole minute.
all one foot.
So a lot of this is me just figuring out iMovie at the time because I essentially what I want is a legit playthrough video where the feet are there in the, a small window the whole time, but I just didn't have those tools back then when I made these. So I just try to switch to the camera angle of the feet on the parts that I felt were most interesting on the feet.
Was it all like in one take? I mean the
Yep. And this is funny because Anna Pattern was the first drum playthrough I filmed at my old place up there. It was the first time I'd done something like that. I didn't even know how much my foot moved because I'm not like obviously staring at my left foot when I'm playing. It kind of caught me by surprise too, like watching, when I was editing the video, I was like, man, my left foot, it's extremely animated. And then I sent it to Justin and he's like, dude, this video is all about your left foot. And I'm like, yeah, it's interesting because like I didn't refine these techniques. I didn't see a drummer that showed me how to do these techniques. It's just learning your parts you're writing or making my body do this. So that was kind of cool. And it was like seeing this for the first time myself even was like, wow, yeah, that's a technique that has been developing that I'm not even realizing is developing. It's just kind of happening because it's what the
Yeah.
part demands. It didn't seem that animated to me. Like when you're playing, you don't really notice, but then when you see the camera, you're like, wow, that thing's jumping all over the place.
Do you think about like, recording more of those, like the
I,
old
I would
ones?
I would love to. My goal someday is to have a drum playthrough for every one of our songs. Like that, just like an archive of all of it, because that's my life's work, just all these, after the burial songs. I would love to have like, a playthrough video for everything. Problem is right now, like, when I lived up north, I had that studio, I had that room so I could play real drums. Can't really do that here. I have the digital kit, but I'll never do a playthrough on a digital kit. It would have to be like on the real kit. So
Why? You still
it's
can't
just
do it on
not
the real one.
sonically, you're going to be hearing Superior Drummer samples basically, which is not, my kit. But my goal for this new album is to, over the summer, have every single song tracked for it for a playthrough. And then when it gets released, I roll playthrough videos for it every week after the album's released. So definitely trying to get like to come back really with a lot of new material, like playthrough videos.
I think I asked all the questions regarding the technique and stuff. So there's the very last part. These
Oh wow.
are the videos. Some of them have been sent to me. Some of them I found them really, really interesting. Some of them has been recorded just for this interview. Is there anything that catches your eye?
Someone did The Great Repeat and Catacombs, which I'm stoked for. Two songs. Those are kind of deep cut songs for us. It's awesome.
Do you actually
Yeah.
watch the after the burial drum covers, or as you said, you're living in the bubble? Do you?
I see. I think I recognize Adam. I think I've seen,
York.
if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken, I've seen his videos before. I believe. Yep, that I've seen his before. Drummers will, share me and tag me a bunch, and I've seen a bunch of attempts throughout the years. It's always usually Lost in the Static or Behold the
Yeah.
Crown or something. So when I see someone attempt like Catacombs or The Great Repeat, these are songs I haven't even attempted. Only in the studio have I recorded these songs. We've never played them live or anything. So now I get to see a drummer play something that I haven't even approached basically in years. Nice.
What about this pattern?
This is the most thing I was curious about how he was going to approach that pattern because that's actually kind of complicated to grasp at first. He's already got it down. So that's awesome to see.
Do you
Um,
play like cymbals identically?
I did this on two crashes. He's using hi-hat and crash, I believe. I used two crashes. I can't remember specifically, but the hand, what he's doing, where he's hitting that hi-hat is perfect. Like that's the pattern. He's a good drummer.
He's got good tone.
Yeah. Kid sounds great. Let's watch this one. This one's cool.
Let's go.
Yep, got a little break here.
Yeah.
And it comes in heavy. Come on. I think I went through that using two hands, and he did that alternating between the crash and China, which looked very cool. Sounded sonically the same. Yeah, this dude's killing it. Cymbals sound great.
Yeah. Anything else to add?
So there's one part I wanted to see. That's sweet with the one hand. He's like between the China and crash. That's cool. It's the next part I want to hear. It's the next part I want to hear because this is the part that's got the kind of double bass going on. And it's right after this. Yeah. And there's a big drum fill at the end of this. That was an excellent playthrough. Excellent work.
You said you wanted to watch the Great Repeat, right?
Yeah, because that's also a song I've never heard anybody attempt. Yeah. He's nailing it so far. That's awesome.
The drum sounds massive here.
Yeah.
The one of the main reasons why people would dread learning your covers are the kick patterns.
hmm
Because they just obliterating and just make your brain work basically, don't you
hmm
think?
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's the hardest stuff is yeah. It's the
yeah,
feet for sure.
yeah.
He is perfectly hitting all the ghost notes right where they are. This is another very good cover. I'm glad he did this. It basically, yep, all that because this song is a lot of like really subtle ghost notes placed all over the place, especially in the chorus, and it's just during the guitar solo too. There's all these like little ghost notes, and he seems to that was like exactly how the chorus went. So excellent, excellent cover. He's got a good ear for what he's hearing. Like he can dissect the song very well by ear. Not an easy thing to do with drums a lot of the time because drums are kind of tend to be a little buried in the mix sometimes, I feel like. So it's really hard to kind of pick out the subtle nuances like ghost notes and stuff. He's killing it. So yeah,
Nailed it. Good job, man. Good job. Okay,
good job.
let's do the last one.
Is it a wolf amongst ravens he did?
Yeah.
A lot of footwork on this one.
That kick pattern, he's playing it with 2 feet.
Yep. A Wolf Amongst Ravens is one of those songs where you could sit there and play that with one foot at the tempo it's at, but the amount of time that riff is played is so you would kind of I learned that I would gas out because of how many times you just have to do that. So that one is one of those songs where I did actually learn that with 2 feet and it's played with 2 feet just to keep energy up, you know, and
Just to
but
not to
it's
guess out.
yep, but it's really kind of hard. That's what I'm saying. You're sitting at that tempo where it's really hard to play with 2 feet because of how high you have to pick your legs up to kind of slow everything down. And just the monotony of that riff repeats over and over and over
The whole
again.
song.
Yeah, it's the chorus riff, it's the intro chorus riff, it's the chorus riff, and then you have like a slight variation of it for the ending. It's the root thing of this entire song is basically that pattern. You play it so many times that it becomes like it's one of those songs where I have to remove myself from the equation and go completely autonomous because the second I think about that pattern and what I'm playing, I will mess that song up every time because of how repetitive it is.
Did you mess it up a lot in live settings?
Um, I mean, yeah. I mess up everyone. Yeah, I mess up that song. I mess up
Which is the song that you like mess up the most usually?
it's hard to say, they have they each have their kind of like hard sections, in each that I'm like, all right, could probably play that better. But it's weird when you're on tour, you get to that first week, like I said, of the adrenaline's gone. And then you're like in 3 or 4 weeks of just like, I don't need to warm up. I got all these songs. You're playing them. You're not screwed up. It's always the last week of tour. I feel like you slowly learn how to unplay everything you've just been playing for 2, 3 weeks. And that's where I'll start messing up dumb crap. And it's always on Wolves or a Wolf Amongst Ravens that tends to happen because you're just like, how is this song not done yet? I still gotta play. We still got a whole section to go, and then the minute you think that, then you're gonna mess up. So,
Yeah, which shows that we're all like human beings and stuff.
mhm.
So anything about his playing, anything?
So I will say that it's excellent you got that pattern in and were able to make the turnaround. That's a lot of syncopation going on in there. And the fact that he's able to play the riff, repeat, and make it through that first is basically means your foundation for learning any after the burial riff is already there. If you can write that out and play that riff and repeat it the way he did, that's pretty good independence. So excellent work.
Okay,
Um,
thank you. Yeah, thanks, Rahul. Yeah, that I think that was it. Thank you for watching it. Thanks to all the people whose videos we watched.
yeah, thanks
Really enjoy.
guys. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
enjoyed breaking it down with you. Hope people who are going to be watching it will enjoy it as well. But anyways, man, thank you
Mhm.
very much. Thank you very much for your time. It
Thank you,
was,
Ilya. Yeah, thanks for
yeah, it
reaching out,
was,
man. This was
well,
cool.
we've been here for what, 3 hours, I would say,
Yeah,
isn't
it
it?
does not feel like that. That's crazy.
It never does. For some
Yeah,
reason,
that
for me, it's just like feels like 3 hours, 3 hours that feel like one. When you
hmm
have an interesting person to talk to, which you are the case. And thank you, thank you very much for doing it with me, and thank you very much for breaking down the history of the band, the albums, and everything. I have all my questions asked, but
Well,
yeah,
thanks for having me, man. This was fun. Like I said, when I get some new playthroughs, hopefully this year, I'll be hitting you up again and get them on your if you wanna,
yeah,
yeah,
of
share them or
course.
whatever.
Of
Um,
course, of course.
yeah.
Just add me as a collaborator on, you know how to do it on Instagram. It's like very easy. And
hmm
if you end up, in San Fran, San Jose, Berkeley, Santa Cruz, I'll hit you up and we'll be able to shoot a drum cam for you, which is
Yes,
gonna
let's
be
do
a
that.
lot of
Next time
fun.
we're in your area, we'll get you out. Let's
Yeah,
shoot some
yeah,
videos, man.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
And again, thanks, man, and
Thank you, Ilya.
appreciate you. Damn it, I talked to Dan from after the burial. That's crazy. That's crazy.
I
Oh
will
my
say
God, I
not too many
can't.
people get to say that, man. So you
No, we
you're
just
basically the first one.
no,
Yeah.
that's not true. I think people
hmm
think that way. They just
hmm
don't say it. Thanks, man. We'll see you on the road and just can't wait to hear the new album.
Awesome, Ilya. Thank you,
Love,
buddy.
love. Bye. I'll see you, man. Bye, bye,
Talk to you soon,
bye.
buddy.
Bye. Talk to you
Later.
soon. Bye.